Welcome back to New England Living. I'm Rachel Holt. Up next, we're heading to Newton for a first-hand look at suburban living with an outdoor feel. This is a beautiful home. Tell us about this project and how it started.
The client who bought this property came to us and said, we'd like to offer you an opportunity to do something very open and interesting and not have constraints. And so we used that latitude to come up with an interesting concept. And what we came up with is a kind of a contemporary play on a regional vernacular. In this case, it's a little village of houses, so little wings kind of all put together with a glass connector in between the two. And the beauty of that was that each of these pieces has their own distinct program. So we have 3 wings in the form of an H, and then one's kind of a bedroom and garage wing, one's a living room wing, and one's a kitchen wing. And what's neat is that the bedroom wing is 2 stories, but the other 2 are single stories, so you get really great shaped spaces, very dynamic, like the one we're standing in right now. And that adds a lot of character to the house.
A big thing you do in all of your work is that focus on the indoors-outdoors relationship. How do we see that at play in this house?
So where we're standing, we're in the living room, and this living room is defined by a series of wonderful windows and sliding doors that open up to the backyard. Those doors are contrasted by a wall across from us, which faces out to the street side. And so one side represents openness on the private side of the house, and one is on the public side of the house. And by having these 2 relationships of one wall being completely glass and one being a wall, it makes the wall of glass that much more interesting. And so in this case, we work with Marvin to create special custom-sized sliding doors that run from floor to ceiling and all the way across the breadth of the room. And it's almost impossible to walk into this space and not be drawn outside.
What separates the front of the house from the back of the house, because they are very different?
So the creation of a shaped house, those different pieces that come together to form an H, what that allowed us to do is create an auto court in the front of the house, and it pulls the primary living part back from the house and gives it some buffer, and that's the private side. And there you have a wall with a bunch of ribbon windows up above that are smaller, versus the other side of the house, which is pretty much flat against the back of the yard and completely glass. And so we have very high contrast, both the spatial relationship's different and also the amount of light and views that come through are different.
This emphasis on the large doors, the large windows, bringing all this light in and this openness, why is that such a highlight now?
Well, if you think that we spend probably 90 to 95% of our time indoors, it's pretty important that if you're going to be indoors, that you should have some strong connection to the outdoors. And if you look at, say, California over the last 20 years, they've got a much more temperate climate. A lot of their houses are really open, but a trend that we've seen moving to the Northeast is people wanting to embrace that. And part of that's the technology that allows them to do that. And part of it is a desire to have their houses be more open. We also tend to have a little bit more of a Scandinavian vibe to our designs. We like warm materials, but a kind of a nice simplicity to the house so that houses feel peaceful and balanced, and we work off of light and shadows and materials all together.
The kitchen area, that's a dream over there. I mean, you can picture just having a cup of coffee in the morning, looking out to the great outdoors. Walk me through that space in particular.
So the kitchen has 2 different pieces. One is the kitchen proper, which relates directly to this space. And then one is the breakfast nook, which is off the back. And that's completely all glass. And the idea is when you're in the breakfast area, you're literally outdoors. By surrounding yourself with glass on 3 sides, it really kind of accentuates that relationship of indoors to outdoors. As you move back into the kitchen, it's a little bit more utilitarian, but not any less interesting.
When it comes to picking the products that go in the house to help you achieve the goal you set out on, what are you looking for in your partners?
So in our world, opening up the back of a house and creating as much light as possible is a really big deal. And not everybody can do that. And so we have to look for ways to accomplish that. And working with the right window manufacturer and door manufacturer is really key for us. And in the case of this house, we have these really wide array of doors, and they're really, really tall. We had to go outside of the standard offerings that most people would have. So we partnered up with Marvin, who's been tremendous. We've used them for a long time, and they were able to help us achieve our vision. When you're designing a home, if every single space has the same attitude, you're not going to have a unique experience in one spot versus a different one. And that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to create unique experiences. It's never lost on me that somebody's living here for maybe many years, and the value of this house is in their daily lives with their families. What's it like to come down and walk into these spaces and experience them? And so if each one has its own personality, that's pretty cool.
Coming up next, we're heading to our test kitchen for a lesson in cooking up one of the trendiest new veggies on the market when New England Living returns after this.